what? Hollywood's doing other shit. They're doing remakes instead. We talk about it all the time. So now it's time for our reboot of the day.
Oh, shit.
All right, it's time for that reboot of the day, and Enemy Mine is being rebooted. And I didn't really heard of this movie before, but I knew that Kate Jacob did, so I'm like gonna give it to him in a second. But it's a night.
Wait, you've never heard of this? You've
It's
never
like one of my
seen
all-time favorite films. Yeah.
It has your boy from Tron in it. You've never seen it?
This guy's
What?
Dennis Quaid.
It's Dennis fucking Quaid, bro.
Okay, we're
What
gonna
the
get into
fuck,
it.
Mr.
We're
Tron
gonna get into
over
it.
here? You've never seen Enemy Mine?
You can't just watch.
I can have a whole conversation about this movie all day instead
This
of
is
talking
one
about
of my
this bullshit
all-time
unnecessary
favorite
remake.
movies. I adore this film.
Yeah,
We'll get
it's a
into it. This
beautiful movie.
1985. Let me address everybody else out there too. 1985 cult classic from 20th Century Studios, everybody. It's a future where a man, which again is Dennis Quaid, and also an alien, Louis Gossett Jr., are trapped on a desolate island or desolate planet together, and they must overcome prejudices together to survive. And you're right, there's a baby being had. When an alien dies, Dennis Quaid has to take care of the baby. I watched the trailer, and I thought that it looked pretty fucking dope, but it's like a lot of social issues that you, at that time, they were conquered. I'll have to check it out. But there's no producer or director attached to this remake. But we do have Star Trek Picard showrunner Terry Matliss signed on for this. He started as a writer on season 2, and they took over as showrunner for season 3. And it was his big idea to bring the whole cast back together for that, which I love season 3 of Picard. So maybe this guy has some good sci-fi knowledge that can make something great here with Enemy Mine coming forward, our remake of the day. That might be a thing we start doing. Like, I think we already do it anyways. But
Redeemer's old theme music for this segment.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of fun.
We're going to bring back Three Deemers just to talk about Enemy Mine.
Yeah, we're all three here. We're literally all three here right now.
The Three Deemers.
We're ready to 3D.
We are here to
We're 3D'ing ourselves.
So we can give our audience a little bit more history on Enemy Mine and what it is and if it's meant or worthy of a reboot. I'm going to go with my co-host first. Rachel, who should go first on this topic?
Not me, because I haven't actually seen this movie, so let's go to Lexi.
All right, Lexi, tell us about this.
It's like old times.
Won't watch this movie. She wouldn't watch it. I tried to make her watch
you
it.
Spoiled it for me, and I wanted long enough to forget.
There's nothing to spoil. There's nothing to spoil.
Right.
It's a beautiful
This is one of my all-time favorite films. It's basically about like a war that's going on, and like two people who are engaged in the war end up crashing onto this planet that none of them know anything about, and because they're crashed and they're injured, they essentially have to learn to work together to survive on this incredibly hostile planet. And they learn to accept each other and like love each other, like not like in love, but love each other like very closely because their survival situation makes them so close. And they inadvertently end up like helping the people of that world, I think it was, or something like that, or I don't remember the ending.
The world was collateral damage because of both of their sides being in war. That world was innocent and was collateral damage. It's a really deep fucking story.
It's one of like the most brilliant films of the era. Like it's very deep. It's a very deep conversation about like learning to accept your enemy, and can your enemy become your friend? And
why are you even fighting?
Why are you even at war? Those sorts of conversations. It's an incredibly deep film, and you know the sci-fi setting is not necessarily necessary to it. You could do it in kind of an Earth setting. You could do it like in World War II or something like that with two soldiers, but it works really well with them being so separate in species and type. You know, gives you that really deep, separation of them. Really learning each other's culture and stuff to be able to work together and stuff.
And it does a great job of actually showing Dennis Quaid as more of the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't think you reboot this movie. And I say that not because, like, oh, I'm a big fan of the classic and whatever. It's a brilliant film all in of itself or whatever. But that this is a story as old as time. The story of two warring soldiers who are forced into a situation where
no, sorry.
They have, and they learn that that the war is the only thing that's making them essentially enemies, and that they wouldn't be enemies if it wasn't for war. Those sorts of things. You know, we have plenty of films that have those conversations too.
They weren't forced to kill each other; they would be friends.
Like I said, like we can take war settings, and it could be two pilots crash on an island. You know what I mean? It's a German pilot and American pilot, and they have to learn to work together on the island and survive on the island. That kind of thing. It's an incredibly simplistic base level story that you could not necessarily remake it, but do it again. It's the same thing that Marco was saying about with all of these remakes. It's a very simplistic, very basic.
Check out Angel in the chat. She hit it on the head, or he or they.
I 100% agree with
it's
Lexi.
It's just finding a way to take that story and redoing it again, because it's the same thing that we do with all of these remakes. You don't need to remake such basic stories. You need to make fresh films that redo these stories for new generations every time. That's what you do. You don't remake Nightmare on Elm Street. You make a new Nightmare on Elm Street. You don't remake Friday the 13th. Make a new slasher for a new generation. You generationally build those for each one, because they're such basic stories. This is a basic story. So you build it for this generation. You make a new version of this for this generation. How do you make it around this generation? That's up to the director and the filmmakers to build. I want to see that film.
Yeah.
So you build that world. Give that film to me. I'm excited. I'm excited for that film. That's the film I'm hyped for. When you're going back and you're just literally redoing the exact same film that I grew up with from my childhood, I'm not excited. And the thing is that film really impacted me as a kid. That was a big part of my childhood. My mom gave that to me as a kid, and it was one of those really, really impacted me films. It really in my development and stuff. Not just as a film person, but the ideas that it presented. You know what I mean? So I think it's not a story that I haven't seen done a billion times in other films too. I've seen other films with this. Enemy Mine's not an original film. That wasn't an original film when I saw it. It's just that what's original about that film? Those fucking sand things in it. Talk about those.
Oh, I saw some imagery of that.
Those sand things always haunt me in my nightmares.
It's got a Dune feeling to it.
I,
some Dune-ness.
I didn't really pick up on the deeper meaning to that film till way later when I watched it as more of an adult. But for the longest time, I was like, these fucking things are dope.
It's such a brilliant film. I think that building a really hostile planet and really showing how fucking awful it is to try to survive that's really what you do. But you can do that too, Southern, and you can do that same thing, and whatever. The chat's really agreeing with me there. I can see they're I know exactly what you're talking about with that. So it's it's all it is. It's just that idea of we've been at war so long that we didn't even realize that we could just be friends. It's that same conversation.
And then all of a sudden they find themselves. But is there something nowadays they could maybe, if they're going to adapt it, they're going to make it something else. Is there something nowadays that would tie in, or do you still go to this dystopian type apocalyptic alien war world?
You could set it in Iraq. You could set it in, any of the current war zones that we have going on right now.
You could set it in Russia and Ukraine right now.
You could set it in LA and base it around gang members. You could set it in a science fiction setting again and create a completely unique whatever world. You could create a cyberpunk futuristic setting that you
could put it in the South between an abortion doctor and a Methodist preacher.
He's not wrong with that. Literally,
because it's the theme of it.
How many times have you seen that scenario done? What he's talking about, where it's two people who have opposing viewpoints who are locked in a room together and have to work together in a room together, and eventually come out of that room together learning that they're not that different, It's that same kind of conversation. There's different ways to execute it. There's different ways to go about it. There's high scale, there's low scale. There's bigger payoff, lower payoff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Kay Jacob, what do you think here? You're hearing about this. It's Lexi seems interested, but you also don't think it should touch your childhood, right? So, but it has a great purpose, especially nowadays. I mean,
you should never touch your childhood, Brian.
don't touch the childhood. Just don't touch the childhood. But I'm just saying, like, even nowadays, though, maybe it's a message or a meaning that in a movie right now that could actually help people come together in a way. Maybe with some subtext that's not there, K. Jacob. Is there something like that would be meaningful to bring this back in a new form here in 2024?
Yeah, it's called a re-release. There's no, like, going off of what Lexi said and what the chat is saying is, like, this movie in itself is perfectly fine as it is. And like Angel said, it is a remake of an older film before that. And that was set during World War II. Like Lexi said, you could do this film that way because it's just about two enemy combatants put in a situation where it's like, hey, we either kill each other and die or we work together and survive. And through that process of surviving, they get to know each other and they realize, like, oh shit, we're not that different. We just physically are completely fucking different, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, we're on the same level. I may not fully understand you and what your purpose is, but I respect it and I can, work with that. This movie is awesome. It's really good. It is a little nugget of beauty that should be watched, and the special effects for its time are great. Alien is fucking beautiful looking. It's so like, I can't even say the word for it. It's just wonderful makeup, super well done. The fact that the alien self reproduces and has a baby and he passes along, and then Dennis Quaid is stuck raising his enemy's child.
That's such a weird plot point. Yeah.
Like, do you kill the baby or do you raise the baby? And he was given that baby because the enemy combatant had to be like, you're the only one. They have to live on. It's fucking deep for a sci-fi movie. And I think it's completely unnecessary to be remade. If they're going to remake it, at least try and do the story, but in like a different setting. It doesn't have to be about, alien war. It could be something else. I don't feel the need for this. I don't feel the need for any remakes. Like they're unnecessary. And I've had this thing where I've been saying for years, until the Carnival of Souls movie is remade, there's no need to remake anything else. Because there are so many films out there from way back in the day, before we had big budgets, before we had proper CGI, before we had proper practical effects and just filmmaking tricks and talents that we have now, that could be redone and look great.
Jacob,
but like, you don't hear them talking about
Christmas 2019 movie.
That was a fun movie.
That was a terrible movie.
But I didn't need it to be remade. And the reason I liked it is because that was a movie that literally had nothing to do with Black.
The only good one was the 2006 remake, which was the best.
The only good one was the original.
Was the 2000.
So look, that's the point. That's what I'm saying. The 2019 Black Christmas had nothing to do with the original movie. It literally just had the title. That is it. It had the title. And if Enemy Mine Reboot has nothing to do with the Dennis Quaid film, it just has the title, cool. I'm all right with that.
I do think
I have no issue with that.
I'm actually really excited about that.
And if Blumhouse is doing it, they'll probably do that, because Blumhouse is really great about taking the title of a movie
and then
and having nothing to do with that.
We're not having a House of Wax situation again here.
Yeah,
you mean the Tourist Trap? You mean the Tourist Trap,
the remake
called House of Wax?
I just feel like with this director, with this showrunner, though, I feel like it's going to really dive into the sci-fi. He's been doing a lot of sci-fi already. I feel like he's going to stick with it, though.
What do you mean? They said no one was signed on for this yet.
Yeah, we have Matt List. We have Matt List attached to this, who did Star Trek Picard seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah, you did say that.
So here's the thing:
he's the main showrunner for this,
or is he doing a series? Because I would love to see this turn into a series. Make it a series. That would be fucking cool. Because you could really elaborate and you could expand on that story. But there's no need for a movie unless he's going to be, what's his name, and do like a 4-hour Dune for us. There's no need to remake Enemy Mine unless you're going to turn it into a fucking series. And then if you turn it into a series, you give us more of that world and give us more of that story and really drive home that deep fucking background that they're trying to give you in a 2-hour film.
I will say a dream I've always had. I saw the chat talk about Silent Running. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's a beautiful film. I think, though, with today's effects and with the right director behind it, that it has spent enough time between its original creation, and that I would love to see a really well done, proper remake of Silent Running. I think it's a beautiful film that deserves its time again. But I think it needed the time. Like, I needed that really well thought out, like 70s. It was from the 70s, and now, 2024. I think it deserves that chance because it really suffers from 70s special effects and things like that. It's a beautiful film.
Back around to Enemy Mine.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that'll be next week. We'll be talking about that movie. I feel like the way things are going right now.
Like, we were talking about remakes, but like, that's a film that I would like to see done. I'm like, when you talk about Enemy Mine, I'm like, that film's perfect in its creation. I don't see why we remake that.
And that's been the whole point of our old show, was that point right there, that they keep remaking shit that we don't need remake. You're remaking The Exorcist. Go fuck yourself. It's not necessary.
It's two people that love this movie, though. You love this movie. You've seen this movie. Rachel, you have not seen this movie before. You've been hearing about it for a long time. But just the idea of it, was that something?
I come into most remakes thinking it's unnecessary. But after listening to you guys talk about it, you've actually convinced me that a remake is necessary of this.
Why?
Oh,
because she hasn't seen it, so maybe this will get her to watch it.
A universal topic. And with the world and the state it is right now, we really could use a film that's like, hey,
then re-release it.
Something's different. No, and modern audiences don't want re-releases.
And they're not going to watch it.
This old fogey does.
Film dorks want re-releases. So, I love me some film dorks, and I am one of them. I like to have re-releases too, but if you're going to have this message portrayed to a modern audience, it's been over 30 years since it came out. It's been almost 40. That meets my timeline requirement, because I don't like remakes if they come out before 30 years. So it's been almost 40 years since it came out. Technology has moved very far. We are in a place where global conflict is at an all-time high. People are not sympathetic to other people outside of their own clans for the large part. So, yeah, I think honestly, let's do it. Let's remake this movie. It doesn't need to be an exact remake, but I think if you take the general plot points of alien warfare, having to get along and move on from there, I think honestly, it could be good.
What was that movie that just came out, Brian? The one that just came out with the AI, the robots.
You're talking about
be a little bit more specific. They're riding that.
No, the one that just came out that was like about the robots that are like fighting us. We're in a war with them, and they're building an AI, and they have that child. That's basically it literally just came out. Yeah. That movie. That's what we're talking about. That is literally Enemy Mine.
Yeah,
that movie is Enemy Mine.
I don't like the idea of making AI sympathetic as a character, though.
But it's about
entity.
I get what you're saying, but
the creator. Yeah,
that movie is literally Enemy Mine.
What we need is a hermaphrodite Israeli to be in a locked room with a Hamas rebellion fighter, and we will solve this war over in the East.
But when it comes to this movie, though,
I agree more to metaphors than directly pinning something in there.
But you saw The Creator, did you not, Brian?
I did. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Was it not the subject that we're talking about? Was it not
it's
two warring sides where one of the guys from that side comes together with another person from that side and learns to accept them? It
didn't do well, unfortunately.
They do it with a child. There's a child involved in it. It's all everything that we're talking about.
That's with Denzel Washington's son. Talk about nepotism done right, though.
But and The Creator was a brilliant film, and nobody watched.
I agree with though. I agree. And then unfortunately, no one did. It's on Hulu now. You can check it out too.
I have it. Yeah, I have it in my Hulu list to watch eventually.
Yeah. But Rachel, I agree with you though too. I think that this is one of those movies that it's far enough away, has a great message. It could draw a new audience to it. They beef up the special effects. I just think it's the right time. It's been a long time, and I get being like really honing into the original. And you can do another re-release with that too, and people will probably make more money off the original as well. And the studios will love that as 20th century, which is now Disney, so they'll get that money. But I think that's what it is. I think it'll work in today's society. I think people might like it. And Creator didn't do so well, I know, but this is something that could have like a one-on-one, mano-a-mano kind of dynamic, and that could be something that's like we can all work together and find ways to appreciate each other in ways we never thought we could. Because we're different people, different worlds, but
underappreciated film in its time. It sounds like
they're still calling it cult classic.
It doesn't necessarily, like, there are some cult classics that you just don't touch, like Rocky Horror.
Yeah,
It's been over 30 years. It hits the timeline.
They could do it.
If it's
Oh, you don't like it when it touches your masterpiece.
Time warp again.
The other criteria.
Oh, it's time to do the time warp again. That's
the other criteria is underappreciated. So,
And it was.
I think Rocky Horror is underappreciated.
I think you're full.
And you know what? It's Pride Month. It's time to have a new Rocky. Wait, they already did that with what's her name from Orange Is the New
If you
Black.
want to redo Shock Treatment, you can talk about that.
Yeah.
That's a great
Good.
movie.
But it doesn't matter though.
Not
Let's
deep at all.
redo Shock
Fine.
Treatment. Let's do it.